It's the system operates, as you well know, in a perpetual deficit. It can never be made whole, nor is it meant to be made whole. It's just the debt must expand exponentially just to maintain the current environment. And they need to create in situations, crisis to crisis to crisis, so we can fund it, so they can sell it to the public. Okay, we have to send X amount of billions over here and X amount of billions over there and blah, blah, blah. This mechanism here must play out this way to sustain the current model. But again, what are we seeing? We're seeing the current situation being dismantled piece by piece. They're taking it apart. And what this is going to end up leading to is a much worse crisis down the line.
On this episode of the What the Finance podcast, I have the pleasure of welcoming back Gregory Mannarino, who's the Robin Hood of Wall Street and founder of Trader's Choice. So, Gregory, thanks for coming back on the podcast today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, our last conversation, it was really popular, and it was actually sort of during the, I guess, the banking crisis. So the end of March, where it seemed like everything was falling apart. But I guess since then, it's sort of solidified, sort of not. So I guess, what are your opinions on what we're currently seeing in the world at the moment?
Oh, wow. That's a humongous question. I mean, you want to start off with the banking crisis that we left off with? Well, it's gotten obviously monumentally worse. All this is being hidden from the general population, the public here. Look, the issues at its core, the foundation of this entire thing is, again, going back to what I said over a year ago now. No deposits, no loans, and no deals. This is hitting the larger banks, some more than others. I think Bank of America is under a lot of pressure here. As a matter of fact, these institutions are loaded up with all kinds of bad debt. Not just that, they've loaded themselves up, beyond belief, with treasuries. And we've seen lately this literally historic sell-off here in the debt market is clearly, anybody should understand that these institutions' their portfolios in aggregate are losing value substantially. That's just adding to their problems. But this is no secret. I really believe that we're seeing a consolidation of the system. It's going to consolidate further. I'm stating publicly lately that we're going to see a failure of a major institution, probably Bank of America, maybe Wells Fargo as well. These are some of the weaker institutions on Wall Street. As a matter of fact, Bank of America is the weakest at this current time with regard to the larger institutions. So I've been telling people to unbank themselves for quite a long time. Why do we need to keep our cash in these institutions? I think, it goes back to what the FDIC said. The FDIC, maybe a month ago, I hope you caught this report, said specifically that they know of hundreds and hundreds of banks that are in the process of failing, but we cannot know which ones these are. It's privileged information. It's confidential information. Think about that. We have the FDIC knowing there's a big problem here, not allowing the public to know which institutions these are. We have our cash in these institutions, but we can't know. Look, it's part of the system here, and how people are always blindsided, not allowed to know what's actually going on. So with that, what better way? Okay, fine. Consider the entire system to be toxic and insolvent, which it is. It operates in a constant vacuum where people don't know. It's surprising to me. Here in the United States, we have a zero reserve system. There's no reserve anymore. We used to have a reserve requirements. These institutions were at zero. So there's no cash there. The system is, it's on the edge right now. And I think it's going to get a lot worse moving forward. There not only are there no deposits, no loans, and no deals here for these institutions, people are pulling their cash out. People don't know what's happening, and they're not being told, and they can't be told. If the mainstream media were to allow people to understand that people are going to the banks and taking their cash out is like we've never seen before, this would start runs on these institutions, and the whole entire system would end. But they can't allow people to know this is going on. But it is. And I urge people to get unbanked, Take your cash out, put it wherever you want, like our grandparents used to do. They used to stash it under their mattress. You remember that? Well, my grandparents did that. That's a fact. Hide it around. But, you don't need to be in their system. I think we need to get out of their system. Okay. Then why do we need to participate in their system? Well, they make us participate, but keep it down to a minimum, people. Keep in these institutions what you need to function. That's it. The rest of it, find someplace else to put it.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear. So you think that things are still going the way they are? Why is Bank in America and I guess Wells Fargo the worst position? Is it just because of these massive, the bad debt that they hold, or is it the treasuries, or what is it?
Well, it mainly it's bad debt and it's exposure to treasuries. They're in a lot of they got problems here. But again, look, let's put another perspective on some of this. This new war, okay, and I said this would happen before it happened. I said, watch what's going to happen to the debt market. You're going to see some form of stabilization here. Again, we're in a global, full-on liquidity crisis. There's not enough cash to go around. That's just the way the system works. It's a constant vacuum, a perpetual debt black hole, and it can't stop. But this mechanism, the timing of this is just unbelievable here. I mean, yesterday the bond market was closed here in the United States here. This allowed the market a time to adjust. But I said on Friday, I don't know if you caught the response. The stock market on Friday prior to the war took off like a bullet. I mean, some miracle happened. Institutions went out, started buying and buying and buying and buying. And I'm sitting here questioning what's happening. Why is this going on? Then all of a sudden we found out that the war, okay, which is obviously stock market positive, stabilized the debt market, which it's doing right now. 10-year yield in the United States has come down. Risk is dropping in the market. The stock market right now, as we are doing this, is higher as they floated out, as predicted. A Federal Reserve president, Fed President Bostic, came out talking about, the Fed doesn't need to raise rates anymore. And this is what they do. We know their playbook cold. We know what they're going to do before they do it. So we can call this institution out. I mean, they are public enemy number one, central banks. You know my take on this, I think, at least. Anyway, that's what's happening here. But this is not going to stop. And this is just a Band-Aid. This war will expand. We had the Ukraine-Russian war kind of out of the public didn't care too much about it, even though with nations around the world throwing billions and billions of dollars at it, it's not enough. The system is illiquid. The system remains in a constant state of deficit. So they need the new war, add liquidity to it. Watch what happens. As we said, as we predicted, bond market would start to stabilize here. Cash making its way into the perceived safety of its debt, putting a little fire under the stock market. It's what it's meant to do. And then there's, again, just a coincidence. Anyone want to believe that this is a Middle Eastern war and it's going to get worse? I mean, it's going to prop up crude oil too, just as it was meant to do. Yesterday, crude oil popped 4.5%. Sure, it's under pressure today, but we popped 4.5% yesterday. I mean, it's just so in our face, man. It really is.
Yeah. So can we maybe talk about the long bonds, especially the Treasury, long duration bonds? Why have we seen them just basically their price collapse? Is it due to inflation? Because if we look at the last 6 to 9 months, they haven't done too poorly. It's just the past few months where we've seen that high volatility.
Oh, absolutely here. I mean, but this was inevitable here. Again, this goes back, in my opinion, to the liquidity crisis that we're in right now. And then the other thing is, they're blaming it on bond vigilantes. They do this every time. Whenever you see the bond market turmoil, like, it's the bond vigilantes. It's funny. Who in their right mind? These institutions are in a lot of trouble. But let's say you're a bond trader. Okay. Why would you want to hold on to an asset here that's depreciating in value extremely rapidly? You're going to get rid of it, aren't you? But they're going to blame you for it now because you're not holding it to maturity. You want to get it. You want to get rid of it. So of course, you're the bond vigilante. You're a bad person. And this is so. Look, it's a game. This whole thing is a blame game, a distraction, a deception. The bond market is going to blow up. It's going to melt down on such a level at one point that people's heads are going to spin around like the freaking Exorcist. Now there's a new Exorcist movie, which I haven't seen. I'm not planning on it, but I'm talking about the old one, where the head spun around there. This is just, the beginning of, but again, what are they doing? They're trying to reprop this up. This is a massive problem here. A hyper bubble like we've never seen ever. And no one thought it was going to go this far. Not even me. We thought this would be where we are right now, but that's where we are now. This problem here of a debt hyper bubble is only going to get much, much worse. It can't get better. It's not designed to get better. And the system must be fueled in multiples with more debt just to maintain the status quo. But people don't get it. They're not told these things. They have no idea at all what's going on right now, people. And you got the mainstream media with the deceptions, the distractions, the look here. But this whole debt market that we witnessed sell-off as of late here, this is no surprise. Risk in this market was getting out of control, and they needed to stop it. How did they do that? Start another war, stabilize the debt market, because they knew that, look, I knew this was going to happen when we heard about it. All the people that follow my work knew this was going to happen before the bond market opened up. I said, watch what's going to happen. Watch what's going to happen to the treasury. I mean, this is clear. This is not what it seems to be. This is always the same individuals, the same institutions fulfilling their agenda. And that's all this is. And again, here in the United States, we're in a presidential selection cycle. They will keep or at least try to keep the illusion of the markets real. People see the market higher or going higher. Oh, the economy is strong. Everyone's doing fantastic and great. They float out this freak and that other freak. That Janet Yellen telling us, oh, yes, everything's fine. Our economy, I don't see a problem with it. It's just, you can't make this stuff up. But that, people are suffering here. They can't make ends meet. This is a wipeout of an entire class of people on a global scale. And, but again, the deceptions and distractions are going to get even worse. That was what I said at the end of last year. If you watch my final videos of last year, I said, watch what they're going to do this year. More deceptions, more distractions, more lies, more propaganda. And I think I pretty much nailed that one to the wall.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it. So if we look at, I guess, why there is that liquidity crisis. So previously you said there's just so much debt required, and I think we've talked about this previously. There's so much debt required to keep the system going, but because of the price of debt at the moment, it's impossible to do. But as you said, these wars are sort of getting to the point where the Fed's probably going to pivot, and then the price of debt is going to go down, so maybe they can continue with the current market. Is that sort of your thesis there, or what you're seeing?
Well, yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. And it's going to go on and get worse and worse. And all they're going to do is exacerbate the underlying problem. Look, the debt issue is the greatest, forget about war. It's the greatest threat to humankind, and war is an outcome of the debt problem that we have here. And it's going to get monumentally worse because of that. The black hole of debt, the system operates, as you well know, in a perpetual deficit. It can never be made whole, nor is it meant to be made whole. It's just the debt must expand exponentially just to maintain the current environment. And they need to create, in situations, crisis to crisis to crisis, so we can fund it, so they can sell it to the public. Okay, we have to send X amount of billions over here and X amount of billions over there, and blah, blah, blah. This mechanism here must play out this way to sustain the current model. But again, what are we seeing? We're seeing the current situation being dismantled piece by piece. They're taking it apart. And what this is going to end up leading to is a much worse crisis down the line, because what do they need to do? They need an outcry. They need a public outcry on a scale that is going to shock the world to institute a new system. They throw these little bits of truth at us all the time, and I urge people to pay attention to this stuff because it's all hidden in plain sight. The Bank of International Settlements, for example, look at their vision for the future. Okay, the central bank of central banks, the BIS, their vision for the future is basically a one world digital currency. And that's where we're going. People are going to fight against it, but they're going to fight less if they create dependency on the current system, create a massive problem, allow that problem to manifest itself and say, hey, we have a solution. It's always the same: problem, reaction, solution. it will never change. And that's what they're building up towards now. All of this, none of it makes sense anymore. The distortions that exist across the spectrum of asset classes here, the stock market, the debt market, for which everything gets its value from. People don't understand, for the most part, that, the role that the debt market plays in this entire thing. The debt market sets the stage for the price of every single asset. This is why central banks have gotten in here and chosen to manipulate it and continue to do so now. So the stock market and pretty much everything else, the real estate, can be considered a derivative. In other words, it derives value from what's happening in the debt market. Artificially suppressed rates that we've had now since the last meltdown have created an environment that would not exist in a real world scenario here. This thing is just so beyond belief. And the artificial suppression of rates creates, again, a mechanism where cash makes its way into risk assets, comes out of things where it should be going into massive distortions across the spectrum. And all of this is going to change. It must change. And it will at one particular time. But they are hell-bent on keeping the current system propped up for now. But it's going to, again, as always, and people are going to sit there and go, what happened? Why did this happen? No one warned us. Well, yeah, some people have warned you. And it's going to change. There's no doubt about it.
Do you see that happening, I guess, in the short term, this change in system, or do you think that's more maybe throughout this decade or after?
In the short term, again, what they're doing here is they're trying to stabilize the debt market. They had to stop the bleeding. Talking about the sell-off that we were seeing in the debt market, which you had mentioned just a little while ago here. They had to find a mechanism to stop the bleeding, period. The stage has been set from a long time ago. They're telling us that there's some kind of an intelligence failure. Meanwhile, we're finding out there were all these warnings about it. All this stuff on the news right now. Okay, the stage was set. They knew Wall Street was obviously well informed that this was going to happen, henceforth why the stock market rallied on Friday. And, just a coincidence that the bond market was closed on Monday, so start the war over the weekend here. It's the time. Look, none of this is by accident. I think that's pretty clear. Should be, at least to everyone that's watching this. But so right now, what they're going to attempt to do is stabilize the debt market, but it's not going to be enough. This war, we're in a liquidity crisis. Cash is drying up, period, the end. Okay, in order to keep the flow of debt into the system here, this must expand. Another false flag is going to happen, something bigger. And every one of these kind of events must eclipse the one before it. They must find a bigger reason to pull more cash into the now. People can't be told this stuff, that the system is illiquid, that the system operates in a constant vacuum, a constant deficit. They don't know that. People believe that this is a normal functioning system. I mean, just to put another perspective on this, and I urge people to do their own research, go to the Federal Reserve's own website. They'll tell you how much cash is actually in existence. It's $2.3 trillion of US dollars. The rest of it doesn't exist. It's not on the elemental chart. Okay. Near $34 trillion in debt that we owe, it's not there. It's just not, just like people's bank accounts. You think when you go to you open your website and you look at all those beautiful zeros on your bank account, it's not there. It's just digits on a screen. It doesn't exist. The whole system is imaginary, and it's going to get very real. That's my take on it.
Yeah, when you think about, I guess, the whole asset and debt market is what, hundreds of trillions of dollars, and if anyone ever tries to sell, there's just not going to be the capital there to.
No, I mean, and I love it what they do. When people they're told, oh, okay, the debt is X amount of $1 trillion, but this is just, the scope of this all. You have to factor in all the derivatives associated with it, the dollar-denominated derivatives. It's in the quadrillions, and even that is all of that stuff is you can't measure it. There's no actual way to know what it is, but we know that number is astronomically higher than what they're letting us know. Everything when they float out these numbers at face value, you have to understand that there are layers and layers and layers and layers of derivatives on both sides, and it's just crazy to think about it. No one can know how big it is, but I can tell you it's not pretty.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we've talked about the banks specifically in the US, but do you think they're going to be the first ones to crack, or could it be the shadow banks? Could it be, the offshore euro dollar market? Where do you think the real cracks will be?
Well, I think the worldwide financial banking system is in a lot of trouble here. It's not just here in the United States. And I tell people all the time, stop thinking just in wherever area you live in the world. This is, I mean, the system is run by the central banks, and they're all working towards a similar goal. The banking system around the world is insolvent, operates in a perpetual deficit. And again, the world is going to pay the price. The people of the world, unfortunately, are going to pay the price for this, and they're paying for it now. Some people are paying for it with their lives, and they will slaughter. And I've told people this for 10 years. They will splatter our blood and guts all over this planet to keep the current system going. That's all this is about. Our lives are worthless, and they're going to float out the politicians and then tell, oh, what a tragedy this is. Or a war is, but they know the game. I mean, all of them around the world, they know where this is going. They know how the game is played. Unfortunately, they can't tell you because they'll probably end up with a bullet in their head or something along those lines here. But well, that's just the way it is. Wow, this market is it's up over 200 points. That's on Bostic. When President Bostic came out today, we called it. I called it this morning, right on my blog before it happened. I don't know if you saw it. I said, watch what they're going to do. Don't be surprised if they float out a Fed president. He's going to ease the market, talk the market higher. He's going to tell you everything's going to be okay, and the Fed doesn't need to raise rates. Oh, well, that's exactly what happened. I mean, we know their playbook cold. It's so obvious when you know their goals, what they want to do. What's the goal of every central bank on this planet? To be the lenders and buyers of last resort. They run it all. They run the economy, they run the financial system, they run the financial markets and everything. And the flow of information. I mean, this is the one world government that we've been told about. I mean, go to the BIS website. They're going to tell you their mission. And that's basically to conquer the world without firing a shot. Let us kill each other. And send out their smiling faces. I hate central banks, as you can probably tell. I mean, I don't think there's a person in this world that detests it more than I do. I think that these institutions are responsible for all of the theft of our freedoms and liberties, and people are unfortunately surrendering. They're throwing their arms up because they're being forced to do that. They're being made slaves to the system. Something I've warned about since I don't know how freaking long, and it's happening. It's right in our face. It's crazy. But I have to say this: very interesting times that we're living in. It's hard to deny that.
Yeah, but it does sound like that if when these crises come, it's probably going to be beneficial for a lot of these assets because, as you said, the Fed will come out, they'll say something positive, and then the markets will probably go up.
Well, eventually, until it doesn't. I mean, in my view, we've hit. Going back to what we were talking about before, the debt market sell-off here. There's a moment here, and I think we're in it now. But they're trying to hyperinflate it even further of maximum saturation, meaning the system is, even though the system is saturated in debt, it operates in a constant deficit. That's pretty much a fact. But what's the opening act of a maximum saturation situation? It's pretty obvious to me. You have to have inflation on a grand scale, in other words, around the world. That's clearly what we're seeing here. The debt market sell-off is a part of it as well. People they don't want to hold this anymore. There's going to be a moment here where we're going to see a continued sell-off in the debt market, which is going to eclipse what we've seen recently here. Much worse here. Because again, this whole thing has to reverse. Central banks in here buying it all, trying to stabilize the debt market via any mechanism that they can. If they have to institute more war, that's exactly what they're going to do. And that will, for a moment or two, stabilize the debt market here and allow equities to go higher. All it does is keep that doorway open for cash to make its way into risk. But risk on eventually will turn risk off. And look, it's going to be at a moment more than likely of their own choosing. I've been telling people this for the longest time. Nothing is by accident, nothing at all. So when these kinds of things happen here, and we're going to know again. I've been telling people, I don't know how long now, during the debt market sell-off, which was pretty profound. As a matter of fact, Bank of America said this has been the biggest sell-off in history. It's been a profound problem for these institutions with regard to their balance sheets, the value of their debt and what they're holding. But anyway, so this is all going to reverse at one point. An uncontrolled sell-off in the debt market is going to wipe out the value of world equity markets on a grand scale. It's just cash bleeding out of the debt market, putting pressure on world stock markets, and cash is just going to move. It's just cash moves through the markets in relatively predictable patterns. Risk on turns risk off. Once the cash is bleeding out of debt market, bleeding out of stock market, it's going to make its way, in my view, into commodities, and I also believe into the big cryptocurrencies, or most of them probably are going to benefit as well. So there's always a winner and a loser, and cash doesn't just fly away to money heaven. It just goes from one reality into another. It's so easy. It's easy to me, and I think I break it down pretty simply for people. At least I hope I do, so they can understand this. See what they do? They try to convince people that this is too hard. You can't understand this. It's so way beyond the scope of your ability to understand. So what do people do? They turn it off. But it's not hard. It's simply cause and effect. Cause and effect. Everything's cause and effect when it comes to these freaking markets. Case in point, people were telling me, all right, when this war thing broke out, my email box lit up like, I don't know, all the stars in the sky. Greg, come Monday, the market's going to crash. The market's going down. We're going to lose thousands of points. I said, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Watch what's going to happen. Debt market's going to stabilize. Stock market's going to go up. Oh, no, Greg, you're going to be wrong on this one. I wasn't wrong. It's just so simple. You got to understand what they want to do. And this is about stabilizing the debt market now to keep the illusion of the market real. But it's not going to last. It's not going to last. They need another event, something bigger, to occur. And they will. Okay, but people need to be ready for it. And people need to be positioned correctly as well. I mean, look, what do I tell people? I feel like still commodities are the place to be. Super undervalued ones, in my view. Silver, my favorite asset of all time. Then would come gold, and platinum, palladium, third. Both of them. And then, I mean, in general, commodities here are going to take off. It's just a matter of time. But that moment won't happen until we see the debt market actually melt down. See, look, people are always looking in the wrong spots. You watch CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business, whatever it is. They're all telling you to focus on the Dow. 30 companies. Forget about the broader market. You focus on that Dow Jones Industrial Average, because that's where we're telling you to look. Because that's what they want you to do. But the issue is the debt market, which is the driver. That's where the big event that everyone's waiting for is going to eventually occur. And again, understanding that the stock market derives value from the debt market. Well, what do you think that means? I mean, again, cause and effect. Very simple to understand. Sorry, I'm rambling, but it's good stuff.
Yeah, no, it's great stuff. So, as you're saying there, when the debt markets go from that deficit to the surplus, when they probably have to, that's going to have a horrible effect on the equity markets, and that's when these precious metals are probably going to benefit, and other assets that you're looking at. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's how it has to end up that way, because this thing it's just so out of control, and it can't be sustained. I mean, just here in the United States, and I urge people to do their own research on this. We have the debt now going up at over $1 billion per hour. Do people really believe that's sustainable, especially in this environment here, where things are going here? But it's going to go on. It's going to continue on, and the situation is going to get worse and worse until it doesn't. And the false sense of security, people are always going to get caught into that again. And it's the same story like we just said about 5 minutes ago. People go, what happened? No one told us. Oh, because they're not watching shows like yours, like these. They're not. They're paying attention for the most part to the propaganda that's being shoved down their throat, elbow deep, and just looking in the wrong spots, unfortunately. But look, man, I hope people know what's going on. I think people are waking up. At least I hope so. I think they are, because I hear from people every day. I can't even tell you how many people every day, but I think they're starting to get it. Thanks to you. Thanks to shows like this.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks to shows like yours. I know you go every day releasing a new video, which is not easy. So Greg, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it. My last question is, what is one message you'd like people to take away from our conversation?
People forget about, look, every Friday, what do I tell people every Friday? If you watch my work, I tell people love each other, care about each other, be charitable, understand what's going on, raise your awareness, realize what they're doing, realize what's happening, because nothing is what it appears to be. Question everything. How's that? Even what I'm saying, question that too, right? Everything. That's all.
Yeah, great message. And if someone says, "Oh, don't question me, I know everything," it's probably not. You probably should listen to
That's the truth,
them.
because the person that thinks they're the smartest person in the room is probably the stupidest. As I tell people, I tell everyone that follows my work, you're all smarter than me. That's a fact. I'm just able to look. I'm immersed in this. It's all I do, pretty much, and I'm always constantly thinking about it and pondering it and trying to work things out in my head. So just to me, since I've been at it for so long, it's just automatic. And this is how we can call things before, not all the time, but most of the time we're going to get it right. And I think that we're on the right pathway here for people who to understand what's going on.
Yeah, which is the most important thing. So, Greg, thanks again for your time. So, if anyone wanted to find out more about your work, would the YouTube be the best place for that?
Oh, you can find me pretty much everywhere. Just Google me. You'll find me somewhere.
I put the name in any search, but yeah, I'll put it in the description below. But thanks again for your time.
Awesome, man.
Thank you so much for listening, and if you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and click the bell icon so you are notified when new podcasts are released. I hope you're leaving with some great value about investing, trading, and finance. See you on the next show.